All right, in this video, we're looking at converse, inverse, and contrapositive. So converse, inverse, and contrapositive are all built from an implication. So remember, we saw implications were if-then statements. So if we have a quadrilateral is a rectangle and a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the implication is if a quadrilateral is a rectangle, then the quadrilateral is a parallelogram, would be our example. So I'm going to type this out. All right, so here, if a quadrilateral is a rectangle, then it is a parallelogram. So this is my statement. Remember, my single arrow is if then. Now the converse is when I take my order and change it around. So the converse is we switch the order. All right, so the converse of if P then Q is if Q then P. So in this case, it's going to be if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then it is a rectangle. So notice this doesn't have to be true. Yeah, this can be true or false. This is just the converse when I switch the order. The inverse, we invert the symbols of the original. So here we invert the symbols. So instead of if P then Q, I have if not P then not Q. So that means if a quadrilateral is not a rectangle, then it is not a parallelogram. Again, this statement could be true or false. This is just the inverse of this statement. The contrapositive is when I do both actions. I switch the order and I invert the symbols. So switch and invert. Oops. So the contrapositive of our statement is if a quadrilateral, if a quadrilateral is not a parallelogram, then it is not a rectangle. So we've both switched the order of the statements and made them the opposites. I don't know if this diagram will help you, but here's one way to think about it. That converse, we flip the order. So if it's P then Q, Q then P. Inverse, we invert the symbols. So invert the symbols. And then if I switched those around, I would have the converse. The contrapositive is when we do both actions.